Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Sometimes I never know when we're on when I click the thing, but there it is. So, happy new month of ER. I'm trying to think of what else we might have going on. Kind of quiet right now. Just had an Israel day at the synagogue. It was fun. A lot of little kids running around, so good stuff. Anyway, this week we have, again, a double portion. Acharei, which is after the death of Aaron's two older sons, Nadav and Abihu, and Kedoshim, which is also really kind of the middle portion of the Torah. It's the middle of Leviticus. And in the portion of Kedoshim, we have 200 some odd commandments, about 1/3. We have a lot of commandments too in Acharei. One of the reasons why they put these two portions together. A lot of commandments, almost half of all the 613. The other thing is that this is a very long double portion. I typically come back from services on Saturday afternoon and early Saturday afternoon. And what I typically do for the rest of Saturday afternoon is sit down and study the new Torah portion, and the Torah portion, by the way, changes Saturday afternoon. So now we're on next week's. We're really kind of talking about the Torah portion that we're going to read the following Saturday. Now, some people say, well, how is that relevant? Why does that matter? Well, because Saturday afternoon, there is a mincha service. There is a Saturday afternoon service in which the new Torah portion is read, and there are 3 aliyot. And the reason why there is another Torah service, we have the Saturday morning, we read, the Torah service. In this case, last Saturday we read the double portion of Tazria Mitzorah, and then Saturday afternoon we would start on the first couple of paragraphs, if you will, 3 aliyot, for the new portion, which in this case is Acharei and Kedoshim. Additionally, there are also Torah services Monday morning and Thursday morning at the Shachrit service. Now, there are a few people out there, some of you don't realize that we pray 3 times a day, every single day. There is a Shachrit service in the morning, there is a Mincha service in the afternoon, and there is a Mariv service in the evening. Of course, the Shabbat services are different than the weekday services, and the festival services are kind of a combination of the two. We have, on Shabbat, we have extra psalms that we say in the Shachrit service that capture the flavor of Shabbat. And on the festivals, of course, there are psalms that capture that particular festival. So, now, Saturday afternoon is a Torah reading, and this was something that was instituted by Ezra the scribe, the prophet Ezra, who was one of the prophets, one of the sages, who was instrumental in getting the second temple rebuilt and getting it going. And the reason he did that is because, well, it's Saturday afternoon, we're supposed to rest, instead of having guys hang around and do nothing and maybe get into trouble and maybe decide, well, it's time, I've done enough Shabbat, it's over, let's go out and do something. This way it gives them something to do. Monday and Tuesday there are Torah readings, because there's a Torah service, because in Exodus there was some discussion, there was some portions that said that the sages derived that really the Klal Yisrael, the congregation of Israel, should really not go more than 3 days without studying Torah, and this was one way to do it, right? So Saturday afternoon, as I was saying, I come back to my house and I'm studying the upcoming portion. And it took me about 3 hours to study. It's not long. I mean, I do a lot of studying, I do some reading, and etc. But I just say that just to the contrast that there's a lot of other portions out there that are a lot shorter. But now we have 2 of the longer portions, the longest portions of the Torah in there. So what do they say? All right, so let's get to it. Acharei discusses the Yom Kippur service. And back in the days of the temple, before we had our synagogues, before the temple was destroyed and Judaism took the form we know it today, they would do sacrifices, and most people are familiar with the idea of the 2 goats. They would take 2 goats, they draw lots. 1 goat would be an immediate sacrifice. That would be part of the Yom Kippur sacrifice, Yom Kippur service. The other sacrifice, and this is where we get the term scapegoat, would the Kohen would put his hands, it's called Shemitah, put his hands on the head of the goat, say that this is taking the sins away, cast it into the desert to Azazel, and that would be carrying away the sins. And what do we do today for Yom Kippur? We do Tashlich, or Rosh Hashanah we do Tashlich, where we cast our bread, the sins, into living water, running water. The Hebrew direct translation is Mayim Chayim, living water. So they say Azazel. There's some discussion about what exactly Azazel means. Well, you have the word Oz, which is strength, and you have the Zel, which in ancient Hebrew meant dismissal. The strength of dismissing it out into the wilderness. Eventually, that goat would be destroyed as well, killed as well. But a lot of people, some rabbis in the Middle Ages, when Judaism got into demonology, they said that they're giving that it was a sacrifice. The goat was being sacrificed to this wilderness demon called Azazel. And of course the modern rabbis just completely dismiss that and say, of course we don't honor demons. There's no such thing as demons in Judaism. There's just the one Hashem, and that's it. Okay. So and being that this is, talks about Yom Kippur, it also is the Torah reading for Yom Kippur. Additionally, this particular portion, Acharei, contains chapter 18, which is the Torah portion that we read for Yom Kippur afternoon. And this is the Torah portion that talks about relationships that are not okay. So, and the reason we have this portion, first of all, it starts out, when you go into the land, don't do what the Egyptians did, and don't do what the Canaanites do. As far as, the sanctity of family is important. You have a man, you have a woman, they have kids, that's it. Okay, there's no intermarrying between relationships. And this is also the portion that contains the admonition, man shall not lay with man, it is an abomination. And people look at this and say, well, homosexuality is against Jewish law. Well, yes and no. Now, some people will take that at the fundamental level. They will say, okay, well, no homosexuality, that's it. And I've broached this before, and some people have come back to me and say, well, it is what it says. It's basically black and white. There it is. Okay, but you have to remember that the beginning, that Judaism, the Torah portions, even the portions of the prophets and the Psalm and the writings, are never taken out in a vacuum. There's always some context, and the context is don't do what they did in Egypt and Canaan. Well, and I'm going to couch this a little bit because I know that there are some kids that look at my videos, and thank you very much for that. It wasn't like the relationships that we see today between a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, which is a consensual adult relationship. It's a love relationship. Some people believe one way or another, I feel more attracted to people of my own sex than I do to the opposite sex. The Rabbinical Assembly of United United Synagogue has voted and says that if a homosexual person wants to be part of Judaism, that's okay. All right, so we'll leave that alone. I'm sure I'll get a lot of commentary, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to your opinion. You can disagree with me, and that's okay, and you can live your life. That's just one interpretation. I'm not saying it is the correct interpretation, but, in terms of acceptance, we accept the stranger, so that's one of the criteria that the rabbis used when they decided, okay, if a homosexual person wants to be part of a congregation, let him do it. All right, let's move on. Kedoshim, lots of different commandments in there. I mean, almost each verse is a new commandment. And a lot of these are very secular commandments, okay? Like what? Gossiping, all right? We just had Mitzvot and Tazria, which talked about the physical consequences of the spiritual malady of gossiping. Now, it just says that, don't bear a tale, period. Don't peddle. And the words are, do not peddle. Right? Because when somebody does gossip, they don't, just, like they're talking, hey, you know what I heard? Okay, they're peddling. People do this to create havoc. They go off and they want to demean somebody. It gives them a sense of power. That's the people, they just don't feel good about themselves. They need to have that sense that I'm better, I'm looking down on these people who are doing this, and they just can't wait, to get everybody involved, right? How do you deal with that? You ignore them. It's that simple. You push them back. I don't want to hear it. You want to peddle, that's up to you. I don't want to hear it, right? Anything somebody does, I'll deal with that on their own. And speaking of what people does, this is also where it says, love your neighbor as yourself. Now, what does that really mean? Can we all love our neighbors as ourselves? Well, some neighbors, yes. Some neighbors, no. Sometimes people have done things to us, and how many times have people been wronged, right? Some of you may have experienced this, and it's so terrible. You just kind of lay awake at night, just thinking, I hope something bad happens. Oh, I shouldn't think that. No, but I'm so angry. How do you deal with those emotions? Right? It's very hard. All right, but the Torah gives us some ways to deal with that. Okay, first of all, you want to respect somebody. You don't, if you find yourself, and a lot of it's intention, you find yourself thinking ill about somebody, it's human nature, folks, right? I mean, we're human. The whole point of being alive is to grow, is to overcome these challenges. That's why Hashem put us on this earth, so we can overcome our challenges. So we might want to just kind of take our thoughts and redirect them. Say, well, may they be well like Fiddler on the Roof. May God bless the czar and keep them far away from us. Okay, I hope this person fulfills themselves. I hope they get over their thing, but away from me. So we respect people. Okay, so Shabbat Shalom. This week's service is just a plain vanilla service, 7 o'clock Friday night, Ma'ariv, 9:30 in the morning, Shacharit. There has been some talk. We typically have a family service the third weekend of the month. That would have been May 17th and 18th. We're talking, or 18th and 19th. We're talking about advancing it a week, so it may be, what would be May 11th and 12th. Stay tuned. I know we talked about it because a lot of people, including myself, are going to be gone. My grandson's graduating from high school. It's awesome. And, I won't be around, so we may change it. And a few other people, too. Anyway, that's all the time we got. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for tuning in. We'll talk to you again.